Okay, so yeah, what a way to kick off day two, huh? Here we are, day two. So welcome to New Features in Evergreen, our beloved annual tradition that we have at every conference. This will be for 314 and 315, aka the Ruth and Andrea Show, episode 6, Muppets in Space. It's a good touch there. I'm Gina B moderating, although I feel like most of the questions will probably be answered by the other presenter who's not speaking. Feel free to put your questions in chat or in the Q&A section. We'll get to them no matter what. Captionings are also available. So there's that captions button that's next to Q&A under session that you could look at. Otherwise, I'd like to thank our sponsors for the event and champion level sponsors, specifically ECDI, the Evergreen Collaborative Development Initiative, Midwest Tape, Equinox, Stack Courier, and Unique. Also, just want to make a reminder that this is a recorded session and the slides and the recording will be available after the conference. So I think I'm going to stop screen sharing now.
All right. And I will start screen sharing. And yeah, we will do our very best to leave time for questions, but I don't promise that we will get to them.
You'll laugh though.
Yeah, if other people in the chat want to answer the questions for us, that's great.
Yeah.
I do not have a huge goblet of wine, but I do have a huge coffee mug.
I have literally nothing to drink because I did not plan well, but that's okay.
Oh, you want to grab that while I'm doing the front matter? Or?
Oh, no. It takes me too long to do everything in my life.
Okay, let's roll. Okay, welcome to New Features in 314 and 315. Also known as the Ruth and Andrea Show, episode 6, Muppets in Space. Yay!
Yay!
So, introduction. So we did a lot of research for this presentation, I would like you guys to know. So, much
super important.
Much very important research. Very important research. And for those of you who don't know us, this is us. I'm on the left. Ruth is on the right. We were release managers this last year. We've been friends for many years, and we're really excited to talk to you about new features. And this is us, IRL, working on Evergreen stuff at, where were we? We were in DC at Computers and Libraries. Yeah. All right.
I took the train.
She took the train. I drove. We had a great breakfast.
You did. There it is. There's Chris over there in the chat with the
Chris Sharp,
Kermit.
Yeah, Chris Sharp is on double secret probation, thanks to his shenanigans at Monday's pre-conference. So you watch it, Chris Sharp.
Nice.
All right, first up, administration.
So there were several things added to administration, and I would encourage you. We'll talk about release notes and things at some point. But one of them was this huge quality of life edition for 314 and onward, which is dark mode. Then also thank you to, I'm going to go through them real quickly. Or do you want to talk about it? How do you want to do it?
I don't know. We didn't plan.
Yeah, we didn't really plan. So Jason Stevenson also came up with support for Postgres 16 and 17. And you can see it. We put the versions on here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then multi-factor authentication was a huge thing with an extended project for that included support for secondary permission groups, thanks to Pales and Equinox. And then RESTful API, dun, dun, dun.
That really needs the Kermit GIF, and now I'm sad that we didn't put that in.
And yeah, really. Well, Chris will probably find it and put it over there into chat as we get there. So,
Chris, if you find that and put it in chat, I'll take away 1 strike.
I miss these strikes. Okay. So you want to talk about this?
I can talk about this.
I'm always loath to talk about Equinox things since you know way more than me, and I just
yeah, but on the other hand, I'm way too close to it and have there you go. Thank you, Chris Sharp. You're back down to 1 strike. All right. So Stephanie Leary of Equinox, and I see. I can't drive. I see in the chat. Stephen Mayo as well from GPLS gets credit for this.
Yes.
So this is for the staff client, and the default is auto, which will use your OS setting, or it can override your operating system setting, and this is stored in your browser. So it should, every time you use it until you clear your cookies. And this is what it looks like. Ooh, And there has
my
been
eye fatigue immediately goes down.
See, like I'm like the anti-dark mode person. I don't know. Do I have to turn in my old person card for that? Like
No,
I know that
there's
some people really
there's still
love
some
it.
like contrast issues, I think, there that probably could be worked out a little bit more. But nonetheless, it's a step. It's multiple steps in this direction. So
yeah, and there was some bug fixing related to this some other contrast issues that literally Stephanie pull requested yesterday. So if you want to go look at the Launchpad feed and see for those new bugs related to dark mode, help us get those in. All right.
And a nice thing about this, and I'm seeing a lot saying, I like dark mode, I don't like dark mode. The nice thing about this is it's super easy to go between them.
Yep. And
using that icon up in the corner.
Yep, the toggle up in the upper right corner there. So that's on night. There's also day and auto, like I said. So you can super easy make it whatever you want it to be. Yay, options, because options are good for usability and accessibility.
And from my standpoint, easy options. Like it doesn't involve going to the workstation administration or anything funkalicious like that. So
petition to rebrand dark mode as Evergoth.
Oh, the best idea ever.
Yep. So let it be. All right.
So
we gotta move on.
Yeah. And so admin, like I want to talk about it so much because I think it's so important. Obviously, it's structural components and usability and things. This is so important. And thank you to Jason from CW Mars for making this happen. Support for Postgres 16 went in 3.14, and then Postgres 17 and 3.15. If you don't know, these are the databases that everything relies upon. And so having these with the current database is essential. And then a change that also went in is that in 3.14, the minimum that supported version that you can use of Postgres in there is Postgres 13, but it would still work-ish with no guarantees on Postgres 10 plus. So all the instructions for using it are here, as well as on the downloads page at evergreen-ils.org. Move on if you want to. Should I say more about that?
No, I was talking with my mute button on.
Oh.
Speaking of just old people things. Anyway.
No, it's not. It's every people things.
No, what I was going to say is the reason that this is great is that Postgres is not only, as Ruth said, the database that underpins Evergreen, but it's another open source product. What many of you may not realize is there's a lot of other open source things underpinning Evergreen, the software. One of them is Postgres. And so by updating Evergreen to take advantage of the updates to Postgres, it gains all of those benefits of new database goodness. So no pretty pictures, but it is going to make things a lot better and easier.
Well, the elephant is a pretty picture.
The elephant is a pretty picture. That is the Postgres. That is the Postgres elephant, in case those of you.
Yeah.
All right. Multi-factor authentication.
I'm here for Flare.
Here for Flare. All right. So this is for staff side MFA here. And the idea here is that you want to be able to require or not require, you can require or request that staff members use MFA. And this is based on permission groups slash profile groups slash user groups, whatever you want to call them. And there is some backend configuration that needs to go on here, but otherwise it's controlled by global flags, lots of global flags, and library settings. The documentation.
And by lots of global flags, I think there's like 13.
No, it's like 30.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can yell at Mike for that. But no,
global flags.
But the good thing is that
okay.
Out of the box,
you can just not touch them. No,
you can just not touch them though. Yeah. Out of the box, it has some pretty sensible defaults, and but you can of course adjust those as you need. Let's see. And oh yes, the most important part about this is that obviously if you have a SIP2 client or something like that connecting to Evergreen. You don't want them to have to use multi-factor authentication, so you can exempt certain accounts from that. So
one recommendation I do have about multi-factor authentication before we look at the screenshots is that while it is recommended or required, you have the option there that you only really use the recommended version of it as you're getting it set up. So there's a little bit more flexibility, but it works a lot smoother when you've decided who you're going to require it for. And then worry about the others not. In most cases, it's going to be required for most employees.
Yeah, and that's a good point, that using enabled but not required is, as Ruth said, that's what you want to do, like maybe when you're piloting it. And then once you're ready to deploy it, you would want to move that to required. So this is, what it looks like when it's enabled, and you can select your authentication factors. These are all controlled by the OpenSurf config, so you can only show what you want to show to your users. And they will not see this skip for now button if it's required. That is only available when it's not required. Let's see. Available secondary authentication factors. You can see this is where something has been enabled, and if you want to remove it, you can remove here or enable additional factors. And to answer Rogan's question, yes, the SMS password uses SMS gateways and the email action trigger thing. I'm an expert. So you configure this in, like I said, in permission groups, and this is where you would see that allowed but not required. I do not recommend, as the screenshot shows, necessarily enabling this at the global administrator level. This was just for a test system that we did that. And then on the third tab, the new tab of this permission group, you can see the various options that are available that you can assign. And you can assign directly to a group, which means that even if the parent account does not have this enabled, you can assign it directly. So this, does inheritance in the same way that other permissions do inheritance, but you can override that with assigned directly. All right. Any other things I have to say about that? Wait, I lost my slides. You want to say anything?
So this, yeah, I do. This was the first major stab at this, and it came about for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's good to have it in this modern world that we live in, but also there are many state, local, federal governing bodies, I guess mostly state and local, that are requiring this type of authentication in products that agencies purchase, support, whatever. So there is that part of it. The other thing that I do want to say is this was the first major stab at it, but this is ongoing. So that if you are using it, which I would encourage you to at least try using it, if not for any other reason than to test it and see what doesn't work for you, and then get that into Launchpad, because this really should be something that is deployed because of those access and privacy reasons, the reasons you have MFA, but then should be, and I hate to use this word, feedback should be provided, because this is an ongoing thing. We know that the internet is constantly changing. We know that there are lots of ways that things that are starting to be exploited, and there are also expectations of use by end users. So document those in Launchpad, so that the next work on this can include that and can encourage everybody to make this better. Yeah.
I do want to call out something in the comments. NCCC Evergreen commissioned something similar to this. MFA, they commissioned staff client single sign-on. So staff client single sign-on is complete and pull requested and out there to test for the next Evergreen release if you all want to look at that. But that is another factor that you'll probably run into with, again, insurance requirements, state governments, and not to put the fear of you know, what am I thinking of? Where they take control of ransomware, not to put the fear of
Oh,
ransomware into
ransomware.
you.
No, that's a
But
real thing.
one of the things that I learned, terrifying things that I learned at Computers and Libraries this year, was that at about the same time, a ransomware group tried to attack the Library of Congress as well as the British Library. And the British Library was completely locked out of their systems. It has taken them like 2 or 3 years like 18 months to get to the bottom of it. They're still not fully operational. They've spent over 7 figures trying to get out of this. It has been a huge issue for them. The Library of Congress was not attacked or they were attempted to attack, but it was thwarted because almost all of their staff accounts required multi-factor authentication. So there you go.
Absolutely.
And yes, Joe, we could all probably write one big collective book about things not covered in library school. My first library job was at a rural library, and one of the things that I never learned about was plumbing.
Yeah.
All right. So then Pales sponsored an add-on to this that included secondary permission groups. So now, as of 3.15, you can also instruct MFA to consider secondary permission groups. And so a good use case for this is, you have a secondary permission group for staff. They're able to run reports that you assign staff to selectively, regardless of, their primary permission group. And now if you wanted to gate their login, because they have access to reports, you could do that for just those members of the secondary permission group. So that is a cool little add-on to that.
And there have been some comments in here about insurance. Right around the time that we were commissioning the work for the initial project, I heard from one of the Evergreen, Indiana libraries where I was at the time that they had received, they're a medium-sized library in Indiana, but that's a small library in the broader scope of things. They had received a thing for their insurance, asking whether or not their ILS did, and their insurance would have dropped them. We were lucky in the timing to say, yes, this is something that is being addressed right now. And so the timing was just perfect.
And it's also something that we, and I'm sure other vendors, have been seeing in RFPs as well. So this is the future. And if you don't use MFA on like your personal accounts, your email, social media, do
Just
that.
do it. I know.
Just
it's a drag, but
do it.
And also a shout out to Benjamin Murphy, who I believe it was, I don't remember exactly whether there was a report going back in time, but I definitely had conversations with him, Benjamin Murphy from NC Cardinal, about where they were at, what they were going to need to requirements that they were going to need in North Carolina. And that was a driving force behind this. I do remember the conversation, but I'm not going to go into it right now because
we got a lot more content to get
That's
through.
Right, exactly that.
Yeah, no, that was one of the earliest conversations about this. And, I'm sure that it came up in the consortium leaders round table, which Ben also leads. Thank you, Ben.
Yes.
All right. This one really deserves all of your excited Kermit gifts. So
yes,
we don't really have pretty pictures about this.
No.
But what this does is this adds a brand new open API compliant RESTful API suite. It is documented. It is documented in the code. It is documented in the documentation. It is going to make integrating third-party products with Evergreen so much easier. So this is, kind of a future, and I don't want to say prototype because it's fully functional, but it's probably a first step. Oh yes, Mike will have pictures and walls of code for everybody at noon.
It is the foundation for
if you would like to, see code slides, that's him. That's not us. So it is the beginning, and there is a second part of this out there that we'd love to work on. That was add an interface component to this. So currently this is configurable via backend, via database scripts and the like. But we'd really love to add an interface component to this so admins can manage endpoints via the staff client. So yes. Yes, Bill, we know you like code slides. Why are you here? That's all we do here. We don't do code slides. So I'm not going to read through all of these because our slides will be available, of course, after. But this is the current endpoint sets and what the kind of data that you can request from them. So orgs collections holds, self includes a lot of authentication stuff, including circulation functions, penalty access. There's also course reserves material as well, patron info, items, and bibs.
And this started out as a project that was about patron engagement, things like, and you can see some listed here, Orange Boy, Patron Point, but that idea of what patron engagement actually means is much broader than we were initially thinking. So it did expand into these kind of things that aren't really necessarily just the database. They're not cataloging necessarily or bibliographic, but they kind of hit the patron side and the cataloging side. If those are actually distinct sides, that's a whole other conversation. So it became bigger.
Thank you, Debbie.
And awesome. I love this project, and when I first started in this part of my career, I had no clue what an API even was. And so I spent many times on Google and LinkedIn learning, and I still didn't learn very much, but I learned enough to have some context.
Yeah.
And I still don't know. Well, I know more. Actually, now I'm thinking about, I know more. I don't know how to do it all, but I understand it. And so I would encourage you after this presentation to go through this documentation, and every word that you don't know, just find your favorite search engine and just look it up. Go to LinkedIn Learning, get way too much information if you have the capacity for it, because it's going to at least increase your vocabulary and hopefully also increase your enthusiasm for this being a tool that is available, being tools that are available in Evergreen.
Yeah. And that's
my little soapbox.
No, it's fine. I love this project too. It was a huge amount of effort on the part of, Mike Riley-Hunter, who did the development, but also the members of ECDI who, did a significant amount of testing on this and a ton of feedback. And then Ruth, of course, for driving this forward. It is very, very exciting. And it is the kind of thing that's really going to take, I think that it has the potential to really take Evergreen into the future in terms of the things that can interact with it. I have been, I don't want to say shilling for it, but attending.
I've been shilling for it.
You have. Taking the good news, so to speak, to like the Aspen Evergreen group, Aspen Evergreen interest group, because this is the kind of thing that Aspen developers can take advantage of, and I know we have a lot of Aspen users in the Evergreen community. So this makes all of that much easier. I know that when I brought it up at Aspen Evergreen, Mark Noble was like, "Oh, I'm very excited to see this." So I hope that, Mark, if you're here, I hope that you've had a chance to look at RESTful API and see what it can do for Aspen. And yes, I would like to confirm as his project manager that is actual footage of Mike Rylander coding RESTful API. That is correct.
Yes.
Completely.
Yes,
correct.
Definitely on my grandmother's typewriter.
Yep. All right. Yeah. More good stuff.
Now this is visible stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you right click or inspect the code, or if you use a screen reader or something like that, it didn't seem like they were like huge, like sexy visible. There were a few features in 3.14, but there was so much accessibility and usability work done in that version. And I would encourage you to go back and read those release notes.
Absolutely.
Because the list is very, very long and so heartening. There's also, which I love this because this is something that usually was, at least back when I was doing it, was in the template toolkit, which I didn't have access to, the ability to set an OPAC alert message through the library settings, which, I mean, that's maybe not a big deal to some people, but it's a huge deal.
No, it's a huge deal. I can't
Okay,
wait.
good.
I can't wait to show that slide. Like, I love
know.
this.
I just want to like send messages, but I'm not with Evergreen, Indiana, so it's probably for the best.
Ah.
And then also I have Aspen, but whatever. Anyway, and then massive self-registration improvements. Yay. I love saying everybody's saying that it's a huge deal. Oh,
Yeah.
and Stephanie brings up a great point, which we'll
Yep.
get to this, that accessibility is another thing that's being done to meet statutory requirements in the US, Canada, the EU, and Australia.
Yep. All right.
And go ahead.
No.
I'm gonna. Well, this has to do with this. There's that comic out there that says that designing in an accessible way is better design for everybody, and
Totally
we have
true.
definitely seen that in Evergreen. Every time there is accessibility updating, it makes the software better for individuals who don't have those necessarily accessibility needs, but they definitely have like a desire for things to just work better, and this causes them to work better.
Better accessibility, more accessible front ends tend to also make things behave better in mobile responsiveness when you're changing screen sizes, and just general better usability. So, you know, you might think that accessibility does not apply to you, or that you're just doing it statutorily, but it really makes for a better user experience for everybody. And in this case, this was the BC Libraries Cooperative, who sponsored a lot of this OPAC work, and another piece of OPAC work that we at Equinox are working on right now, with testing assistance from NELS, which is a group in Canada that has actual users using actual assistive devices, going through these, testing them, making notes on what is needed. So that is like, it's so huge shout out to BC Co-op and NELS and the BC government. But again, so most of these changes are not necessarily visible to sighted users, but if you like using the keyboard to navigate around interfaces, this will also help that as well. So in case you want to go through and click on all of the bugs that this covered, this is the list of everything that was fixed in that. 52 individual bugs. Gonzo is riding the omnibus.
It is important to say too, that was in that omnibus bug or launchpad ticket, but there have been in every point release since then, in every version of Evergreen that is getting released, there have been accessibility fixes. So every single month in every single release version, there have been accessibility improvements beyond this list. So that's so good. There's a comment up here from Jessica about accessibility being a huge deal, and having to explain to an attorney from the Department of Education federally about not having control over the OPAC accessibility. So please refer to these bugs. Also, there is a VPAT that has been done by the Evergreen project that might be helpful as you're talking with them, and that's somewhere, and I'll find it.
We probably should have put that link in the slide.
I didn't even think about it, but
now
I'm thinking about it.
Huge shout out to Stephanie Leary, not only because she's my colleague, but she has been the driving force behind a lot of this work. And then before her, Jane Sandberg was our community member with her primary focus on accessibility. And of course, lots of people from the community who have been testing and being involved with this. So cheers. This is community development, you guys. This is the best of it. All right. So I don't care if any of you say this isn't a big deal. I think this is fantastic, because as a former Evergreen user, or, you know, I worked in Evergreen Library for I guess we were probably Evergreen for 8 years while I was there. This would have been so easy. Like, I wish that this existed, so I didn't have to file a support ticket every time I needed to put an OPAC menu up or something like that. This took me, and I'm going to show you on the next slide what it looks like. And I will tell you that those library settings, it took me like 30 seconds.
Also, I love that you put in here, does not require Apache restart.
Yes. So Apache is the web server.
Somebody else has to be cheering out there.
Yeah, Apache is the web server for Evergreen. And sometimes when you change things on the back end, you have to restart the web server so that the OPAC or whatever interface knows to grab like the new stuff from the server. You do not need to do this, that for this. And I know because like I said, I made this example in the next slide in about 30 seconds. And look, there it is. So this is so
I was
great.
like playing around with it when I saw that you'd put that screenshot up. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I was like, no way. I'm not doing anything. You made it perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this took like 30 seconds. It's super easy for administrators to toss it up. And you can put this, I had this set at, consortium just so, because I was lazy and didn't feel like navigating to a branch specific OPAC page, but you can put this
Can
at
you
different
add
library
Gonzo's
levels.
picture to the alert?
I
don't know, but you can add a URL. So I think that you can add, I'm writing it down to test it.
Okay. Yes, there's not, I
this
don't think that there
presentation,
is an ability to add an image at this moment, but as Stephanie says, through CSS, all things are possible. And I would like to emphasize for Sarah that Muppets are definitely welcome in the library, but if in case of a Muppet invasion, it might be a little disruptive to customers.
I think it's probably staff development. It's closed because of the Muppet invasion, and the library is full of Muppets.
That's true.
They just have not enough snacks to share it with the entire community.
Always a problem, not enough snacks. Anyway, thank you, Taryn. Past Andrea would have absolutely loved to have this, but future Andrea is excited for all of you local administrators who can now do this in like 30 seconds with no Apache restart.
And it is scoped. Can you go back 2 slides? Oh, wait, maybe 2 slides. Did you show the library setting? No, you didn't.
Okay. I did not. I did not take a screenshot of the library setting, but it is scoped, yes.
Yeah, so that there can be, the consortial, if you're in a consortial alert, and then your library, if you happen to be closing but not the entire consortium, you can scope that library setting like you can anything else.
Yeah.
In the library settings to just be.
Yep.
Locally.
And I used warning for this, which is why it's got the yellow header there. So, and if you do info or danger, anyway, it'll do. There's different, display configuration.
So now I want to go and test, but I'm not. This is not the time. Can you stack those?
I don't know.
Can you set all of them? Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to close my window. Why are they doing this out my window?
Okay, well, while we're testing that, I'm going to tell you about patron self-registration improvements, which is sponsored by Traverse to Sue. And I did not take a picture of this because the patron self-registration form is it's very long, and I didn't want to have a whole 3 slides of this and then this and then this. Anyway, what it does is it gets around that there is always an issue with date pickers not honoring the way people wanted to interact with them. So we just sort of dodged that, and now there's 3 separate fields for month, day, and year, and you can control which order these display in via a library setting. The default is month, day, year, but you can go in that library setting and change that. And then there's also, related to this work, is a new library setting to hide the username field. So what that does is, in the standard patron self-registration form, it will ask, if you want to select a username, and this just hides that from the patron, and it will assign them a default database, name that you can update later, or that they can update later. And so this, if you don't want people to be picking their own IDs, if you have a lot of users and just don't want to have to deal with them, failing to find a unique ID all the time, that's an option that you can do now. And there's also improved accessibility and keyboard support in this form because, and I say this with love, almost everything that Equinox touches now gets the Stephanie imprimatur and is not allowed to leave until it has accessibility improvements. So we love it. All right, Ruth, did you test that out?
No, I closed my window because they're working on a lift station next to the house.
Oh, okay. All right.
Again, too much information, but I will test it later on.
Sure.
If I test it now, I'll just be completely distracted.
No, you never do.
I know, right?
It's so weird. Who are you?
I don't even know.
All right. Circulation.
Don't hit me with those existential questions this early.
All right. You want to talk about circulation, or do you want me to talk about circulation?
I want you to, because I have not been able to go in and play around with this as much as I want to.
Right on. Okay, so the Angular circulation interface is still marked as experimental. In order to see it, you have to activate a library setting, and I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to not use it in production. There is a lot of improvements to it. It is not ready for prime time. But we did put out some improvements to that in 3.14. And then also there is now an Angular self-check interface that is available to patrons. So pretty exciting. So this one here was sponsored by King County Library System. And again, still experimental, is in bold there. So this latest work included patron item alerts, notes, and messages. Then that says item notes, alerts, and messages. That should say patron notes, alerts, and messages. And I will correct that slide before I PDF these. And then also patron status badges, left nav, and some accessibility review and cleanup. And then there is, of course, that is the setting, enable Angular circulation menu. If you turn that on, you'll see across the top bar, it'll say circulation experimental. Again, please do not use this in production. But
I would recommend with that, though, too, is that if your organization does have a training server that you are upgrading to 3.14 or 3.15, that you do, if depending on how locked down it is, you do actually enable this in the training server, because that may be a great opportunity for your end users to get in there and pick it apart.
yes, pick it apart. There are outstanding bugs for the Angular Circ interfaces. But obviously circulation is the central, heavily used interface in ILS.
Yes.
So pick it apart, pick it apart, pick it apart. 100%.
And the opinions of the lowliest of the person who is scheduled the least on your schedule that has access to circulation, their opinion matters, maybe even as much or more, I'm not sure, as somebody
more.
who uses every single day. So
100% more. End users are the interface, and end users
Yep.
are the experts, really. They are the workflow experts.
Yep.
So yeah, if you have, end users that are willing to test out Angular Circ interfaces, that is a great community thing. I am not aware of any current projects to do more work on Angular Circ. If anybody knows of those, feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. Angular self-check, also very exciting. So there is, of course, a new Angular-based URL, and it's Angular because it's got that EG2 in it. And this also includes some handy-dandy new print templates, and it is very pretty. So this is the self-check. So this is the view items out list. I just, pulled up a patron, and this is their items out. And so you can renew. Of course, I don't have renewals left on 2 of these. You can print this out. And if you go back to the main screen, you can, check out items as well. So this is a much nicer, oh, Bill developed it, not you. Oh,
yeah,
we'll
update. We're going to
update
the authors there, and we'll add Stephen also to the accessibility on the slides,
right.
just to make sure. And Taryn, bug and accessibility fixes are kind of, so we're going to add you on there. You're going to stay.
Yeah. Are we writing this down? Are you writing this down?
Yeah, I am.
All right, great, perfect. We will fix this. And apologies for your erasure, for the Bill erasure there. We did not intend it. So great job, Bill. Okay.
One thing that I will say also about the self-check is in regards to the documentation. So shout out to anybody in documentation. Right now in the documentation, if you go to the previous slide, Andrea, it shows the URL that has changed. It shows the old URL in the documentation still. So that does need to be updated.
Maybe an item for the Dig Hackfest tomorrow.
Yeah, and I did put a Launchpad ticket in for that, so awesome. The docs one. So anyway, just an FYI.
Onward.
Okay, acquisitions and cataloging.
I say we're running out of time, as we always do.
Oh, we always do, yeah. Okay, so then I'm not going to share how excited I am about this thing that most people don't use, and was an addition specifically for Midwest Tape. And I can't remember what library. I'd have to read the bug. Maybe it will be on here.
KCLS. It was King County.
Oh, yes. Well, anyway, it is to have these type messages, the X12 EDI advanced shipping notification messages recognized automatically in Evergreen's advanced shipping notice functionality.
Yep.
I guess that basically says it all.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And
what
shout
I
out
said.
to Mike Rylander as well, who did some of the work on this.
Do we need to add him to the slide as well?
Probably. God,
Okay,
who wrote
cool.
these slides? Like, I mean,
I don't
you
know.
should probably fire her. She's a wreck.
I mean, it was collaborative, so maybe we both start drawing some type of non-existent.
So we need a performance
benefit.
improvement plan for the Ruth and Andrea show, you guys.
KPIs, man, KPIs.
Okay.
Sorry.
So anyway, but yes, as Ruth said, this is very exciting because it allows Evergreen to take advantage of advanced shipping notifications in a different format. So advanced shipping notifications are where the vendor sends you, information about what is coming, and that is all linked together, and you can like scan, boxes or pallets of things as they come in, and then it's like, oh, here's all of your items. So it was initially, like Ruth said, intended specifically for Midwest tape because they use X12. But it was, intended to be vendor agnostic to extend the usefulness. So.
And if you're a high volume library system that is using EDI but is not using advanced shipping notifications, you don't necessarily know what it is, I'd encourage you to kind of ask around and find out. That may be a great tool that you can utilize in your, acquisitions, your materials handling process. So.
Yep. All right. We got to keep rolling.
I know. I'm going on.
Quick proceed.
So you got it? You want it?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Well, I didn't use it on the slide, but I'm going to say it out loud. This was a regression moving into the staff catalog. Of course, previously the staff catalog was the OPAC view on steroids, but the cataloging module, I guess. But we have now our own staff catalog that is distinct from the OPAC. One of the things that was not included when it moved over was quick receive. That has been replaced, which is a great thing for anybody sitting at that reference desk that's getting the magazines and getting them into the system quickly. So it works great. I don't remember. Let me look
Catalogers
at the
love it.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, I'm trying to say more about it. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Ba-bam.
And that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
We love it. Parts are different.
Jane.
Parts are different than cereals, and we don't have time to get into that conversation.
No, we're not talking about parts
in this presentation.
They can be related, but let's not.
All right.
There was a great session yesterday by Elizabeth Thompson about, I'm not going to remember all of the words, buckets and bins and baskets.
Batches.
And batches.
And bibs.
I wanted to say and bears.
And bears.
Lots of bee things. But she did such a great presentation on this feature set. So this is the Angular Record Buckets and Administration project developed with Equinox. Stephanie Leary and Jason Etheridge worked on this. It is an overhaul, an angularization of the record buckets interface and the addition of a new sharing ecosystem and administration. So go ahead, Andrea.
No, I got to tell you, I have known, not calling you out, Elizabeth Thompson, but I have known you for a very, very long time, and you're stingy with praise, and I say that with all admiration because you know what is good. And when we presented about this, the cataloging interest group, I got the loveliest email from Elizabeth afterwards, just raving about how much she loved this, and that was like just high water mark for me working in development with Equinox. So I'm so glad that you like this, Elizabeth, because your compliment means more to me than a lot of other people. So I will not go through this a lot because obviously Elizabeth's great presentation will be out there where she goes into this more depth. It'll be recorded. But here's some screenshots from this
Definitely go back to that list and Elizabeth's presentation. I mean, there are some huge things in there. The bib import was mentioned. The reports to buckets is just a wonderful thing. The different ways to share. Also, Jason Etheridge, we need to give him some props here too, because he came up with that name. If you go back to that slide that says bibs in a bucket, he's very happy about that. It's super cute.
And that's because originally the bucket interface had just the one interface that was tabbed. This is now two separate interfaces. You've got your bucket list here in this grid, and then once you retrieve a bucket, this is your bucket with its bibs. So this is the bibs in a bucket. And let's real quickly go through the rest of these. These are the sharing options here. This is the IT crowd interlude, because every time someone says sharing, I literally think of this scene. And then, of course, everyone's favorite. Oh, not everyone's favorite yet. Sorry. This is batch ad. This is everyone's second favorite. So batch ads has, in the left, the screenshot on the left there, you can add bib IDs, you can upload bib IDs. And then the other side of that is that you can export directly to a bucket. Now, you do have to have a column in your report output that contains bib ID. And you'll tell it in this drop down here, column for bib ID, where to look for the bib ID. And you can either create a new or existing bucket. And that is, I think, everyone's probably favorite bit of this. And it was a little bit hairy to develop. So cheers to Jason for working that out. And I know that is the kind of thing that will be super, super helpful to people working on bucket
data. It looks so small and it's so powerful.
I know, it's right there. It's like 2 lines, but it's amazing. We love it.
Yep.
And then there were also several updates to the staff catalog, making it easier to see your buckets. So here you can see on the left that the favorite buckets will float to the top there. Recent buckets, you can see who owns the bucket, whether it's a public. You can see that you're currently selected in this bucket and you want to add those too. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility in the staff catalog to do those kinds of things. All right.
Oh my
How are we on time? Do we have to finish at 11:50?
Good question.
No.
We better.
It's 11:50. Yeah. Well.
All right. We better speed it up.
Okay. Well, this is a huge project, and probably should have done it at the beginning, and we probably have more categories. But this is amazing.
We're fired.
We're fired. This was sponsored by ECDI, CW Mars, and Noble, and developed by Jason Etheridge and Stephanie Leary at Equinox. And
Carol Witt will be presenting about this later today. Great.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Carol. We'll outsource this all to you.
Yeah, it's so good.
All right.
Wait, what about the reverse? All items from a big bucket. Oh my goodness.
So this
not yet.
So this also included changes to the holdings editor, which I know is really controversial. And catalogers, I love you. I used to be one of you. So it went from this to this. And the idea was to, this again included a lot of accessibility improvements, keyboard, nav. All of these were kind of their own individual components with regards to the logic behind them. And they're now much more sensible as to how the holdings editor pulls this information. I probably completely flubbed that technical explanation. So Stephanie, if you would like to correct me in the chat, please do so. And this screenshot's a little bit, because I wanted to get everything on one, but this will also kind of like collapse and reorder itself based on screen size.
And then you have one of the templates tab. Can you go back real quick? Wait, are you going to talk about it?
Yes.
I'm going to talk about it. Okay, sorry.
I am. But yes, that administration, that new tab up there that says administration, right underneath the title is where we're going to do template stuff now. So this is what you see now in the holdings editor. I know that there is some talk about StatCats not being required in all cases, but that should be fixed here. Although Mary, I know you had a special use case that I did write down, and I want to double check. And then this is if you're doing batch edits, you can, selectively. This is how you would change the shelving location of just those 2 items in audio video and leave the one in display. You can apply that there. So I think batch edits, selective batch edits are a lot easier as well. And then this is, when you click on that administration tab, this is what you will see for holdings templates. Now you have all of your templates available here. As you can see, this was from a test server, so there's a bunch of really excellent names of templates. ABN3, New Times 3, Edit 5, Tortoise Shell, which is my personal favorite. And then when to do, this is where you would also import and export templates. And from that holdings editor interface, this is going to open in a new tab. And this is the new item attributes template editor. Again, I had to sort of compress the screenshot a little bit weirdly to get everything. And this is where you would get all of your notes, alerts, and tags info from there. And I did not take screenshots of notes, alerts, and tags, but there's a lot of behind the scenes improvements to make it easier and more sensible to do batch updates for these as well. And we're really looking forward to hearing your feedback on that. So this did go in for 315.
And one thing to note too, a small thing in here is about importing. If you are doing a pretty significant jump in versions, this came during testing. If you're exporting your templates from one version into a pretty significantly higher version that has this new interface, there may be some issue with the incoming templates, but most of them were worked out, and that really shouldn't affect too many templates from like 313 or before.
Yeah.
But if it does,
I mean, as in any case, there is a lot. Whenever you do things that are versioned, like there's a lot to think about when you update many versions. So, talk to your administrators. Yes, you can add alerts to templates in this version. They're right there in the bottom left. Item alerts. And there also was significant, noting that Eric, who said she's going to snip tool this, there was also extensive documentation updates as part of this work, including what I realized is that way back when Equinox did the new item alerts in 3.1, the documentation that had been written then never made it in. So I dug that up. I dug that up out of the archive, updated some of the terminology, and
so it was still from the Zool Runner.
No, it was from it was the Angular. It was the Angular JS version. It was from the early web client, but it's just never made it in there. So that documentation, along with a lot of other documentation updates, went into this. So please read the documentation. Make my many hours
and go to Carol's presentation as
worth
well.
Living, and go to Carol's presentation.
We get no commission on sending people to presentations, but if you're interested in this, definitely
we don't. That's not in my contract.
Oh yes, we do. This is a totally volunteer.
Double commission from last year.
That's
all right. We got end material. We got to wrap it up.
We're doing it.
Hey, these are the places you should click if you want to know more information about everything.
Yeah, and shout out to Jennifer Weston and Elizabeth Davis for updating the tabular release notes.
Yes, tabular release notes are now updated.
Does anyone have a 315 test server? I believe that the Bug Squash test server that is available, if Blake is in here, he can confirm or deny this. Yeah. Or Debbie from Mobius is 315.
Yeah, and if not, there will be shortly. I know that, the next Bug Squash Maker Feedback Fest is in July, so at least by then there will be community test servers available for that. Thank you, Debbie, for the link. Where were we going? Oh, right. Developers.
Oh, yeah. We're going to the end.
Yeah. So these are the fine individuals who developed the software the features that we featured in this presentation. This is not, and I need to emphasize, not everyone, even close to everyone who contributed code to 314 and 315. Please see the release notes for that information. These are just the individuals whose features we highlighted here. So, and yes, Jennifer, the slides will be up. They are not up yet. Obviously we have to make edits to them, but they will be up by the end of the week. So, sponsors. These are our lovely sponsors, the organizations who sponsored development that we spoke of. Again, this is not everybody who sponsored development in Evergreen. This is just people who did it for the most recent version. And of course, community is everything. We get by with a little help from our friends, a lot of help from our friends, which is all you guys.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Please enjoy the apotheosis of Gonzo, as I have decided to name this picture.
Oh, nice, nice.
And
nice.
there's our
That's
information.
what prednisone and
Yes.
and Benadryl will do for you.
Prednisone. We do not give. This is not official medical advice.
Absolutely not. And I'm not really Gonzo.
What?
I just
So
very close representation.
We usually end our presentation with a bad joke, or a great joke. But this year, we wanted to just acknowledge what was a huge piece of news in our collective library world last week, and shout out that we love and support Dr. Carla Hayden, the Librarian of Congress, and she was at one point interviewed by Kermit the Frog on the occasion of Rainbow Connection being added to the National Recording Registry. So as long as that link is live on the Library of Congress website, I encourage you to go listen to the delightful interview that Kermit gave.
And if not, we'll
Dr.
update
Hayden.
it from Internet Archive, because
That's right.
Thank goodness for the Data Recovery Project.
Yep.
Y'all can be involved. Me too.
All right. Stay strong, librarians.
Data
we
rescue.
love you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
You have to do the arm thing.
I mean, I'm Kermit. So.
Yeah, there you go.
I even wore my green shirt.
All right.
Thank you, Gina.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be starting the other sessions in tracks 1 and 2 momentarily.